Do you probably want? All right, good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to meet the candidates tonight. We haven't been able to do this in several years because of COVID, so it's nice to get the community back together. This evening is being sponsored by the Home and School Associations and also the OCTA, and of course, we thank all of the community. I would ask you all to please rise. We would like to give a moment of silence for some area students that have lost their lives this week in Fulton and also in FM. Thank you, everyone. All right, this evening we're going to start off. We would like each of the candidates to go through. They're going to be doing an opening statement to kind of introduce you to themselves. We do have one candidate this evening that was not able to make it. Mr. Bill Braun is out of town for business. So we will be hosting him on the screen for his opening statement and then also his closing statement. The way this evening will run, over at the table, we have a questionnaire, really just a blank piece of paper for you to write your question on. I can't guarantee that it will get answered. We have a lot already. We will do our absolute very best with my host, co-host, Jackie Wallace. So what we will do is we will go through, we will take a turn. The first question will be with Sean Callan and go all the way down the line. Second question would come to Julie, go all the way down the line. Sean would be the last one to answer it. So please, when you do write your questions down, we ask that the questions not be directed at any one candidate, that the questions be written in such a way that each candidate will be answering. All right, so we would like to introduce Mr. Bill Braun. If you would please take a look at the screen.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to introduce myself through video, as I am out of state on business tonight. I have served as an officer or board member in 3 nonprofit organizations in the last 15 years. I have a master's in Christian education, and I am very motivated about children's education. I have enjoyed serving on a steering committee in the last year under Principal Lanigan. I have worked as a financial advisor for about 20 years, and this would be a strength for me on the board. My agenda on the board would be to help improve the academics by supporting the new superintendent and the principals to help teachers help students reach their highest potentials. Performance overall has not been strong, but I never hear it discussed at the board meetings. I would want to discuss it every month. It is unlikely to improve without intentional, focused work. Connected to this is the frequent fighting and drug usage and vaping at the high school, and at least some fighting at the middle school. This degrades the atmosphere for all and must be stopped. Along with these improvements, much can be done to help the schools to look better. We want to improve the schools for the children and the families of Oswego, but we also have an incredible opportunity to recruit new families to live here for Micron and Clay. We cannot afford to miss the chance to do much better right now. It requires a lot of changes.
Sean Callan, if he would please introduce himself and give you a little bit of his background as well.
Thanks, Jen. Appreciate the invite and being here tonight. I'm looking forward to this opportunity. My name is Sean Callan, lifelong resident. Had a couple stints where I wasn't living in Oswego. Out of college, I graduated from SUNY Alfred with a bachelor degree in electrical engineering technology. And after that, I did start getting my degree in teaching out of SUNY Oswego. But I was attracted to a position out in Boston for industrial automation and sales. So that brought me out there for 6 years. Re-met my wife, Amy. We moved back, well, we stopped in Cortland. Then we moved back to where we grew up and where both of our families are from in our Oswego community. Have 3 children. My oldest is Matthew. He's just wrapping up his sophomore year down at Coastal Carolina near Myrtle Beach. My second child is Catherine. She's a senior, looking forward to graduate, going to Cayuga Community College in nursing, and she's excelled in the New Vision program, great program offered here this year. And then lastly, have a freshman in the high school, Daniel. So currently, I'm employed and a part owner of a company out in Ontario, New York. It's just this side of Webster. And we're a distributor for robotics, automation, PLCs, anything that would go into industrial automation. That's what our company does. So in that field, we have customers that we deal with. There's a lot of listening and learning. So I look forward to applying some of that in this role. We listen and we solve their problems, but without listening first, we really don't know what we need to put in place and how we can correct their issues. So, and as in the community, since my kids were growing up, I've spent a lot of time coaching youth sports, specifically soccer and basketball. I've sat on the HarborFest board here in Oswego. Move Along, my brother started a nonprofit organization for adaptive sports, so I was pretty integral in that. The past 6 years, I've been very fortunate to be part of the Buck Boosters, and we've done a lot of great things, even shifting our mission and vision statement more to help, of course, athletics, but the culture and spirit within the school district. So identifying some of the needs and not just staying with athletics, but really helping. This is an example up here that we put in the cafe, but listening to the principals and some of the teachers and how we can help for culture, an improved culture and spirit. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity, work with a group of people, listen to all the employees of the school district, certainly learn a lot, and make a change here moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Julie?
Hello, everyone. My name is Julie Chetney, and I'm really happy to be sitting up here tonight to talk to everyone. I recognize so many faces, probably because I was born and raised in Oswego. I went to Kingsford Park School, graduated from Oswego High School, and then went to SUNY Oswego. I do have a degree in psychology with a minor in human service, as well as English. I went to college because I was really good at English. I didn't know what I wanted to be. That was just a side note. I do recognize many people here because I've really been around for about 19 years with my own family. I have 4 children, 3 of whom have graduated from our school system. My daughter Claudia is 23 years old. She graduated, attended Lemoyne College. She's a current first year second grade teacher in her former second grade classroom, which is really pretty ironic to me and really brings me back. My son Jake is 21. He attends RIT. He's an engineering and physics major. And my son Alex recently graduated. He is not college ready. Not sure if he will ever be college ready. He's a great kid, though, and we're finding our way. And then my son Nate is what my other children will say is my favorite, but he's really not. He's in 6th grade, and he's amazing. You know, it's just fun. My 19 years have been spent primarily at the whim of my children and volunteering for anything and everything they've been involved in. I've been involved with our KPS Home and School since my daughter walked through the doors in 2005. And I've been the president there for, I'm guessing, maybe 15 of those years. Co-president, I'm sorry, I have an amazing partner and team. What else? I'm married to my husband, Brian Chetney, not last but certainly not least, and he's also from Oswego. And I work for St. Luke Health Services. I've been there for 26 years. Working in healthcare is probably as difficult as the past few years for teachers has been. So I feel it. But that's a rear view mirror, in my opinion. We've got to leave that behind us. And I do also, I'm pretty active in the community. I started what was back in 2004, the Oswego County Autism Task Force, because I do have a child on the spectrum. That was really important for me and still is. And I'm currently a sitting Buck Booster member. And I love being part of that program, not because some of my kids, not all of them, were involved in athletics, but because of what Sean mentioned about culture in our district. I'm proud to be a Buck. That's all I can say about that. And I also am a member of the the New Visions Advisory Board. I am also a member of the Ladies Ancient Order of Hibernians, and I don't know, there's just a lot of things. But I guess the main thing is I really like to be involved in our community. I want to be involved, and I don't really know what I'm going to do when I have to leave Kingsford next year. So this seemed like the natural step for me as a way for me to be part of our district and sit at a table where really important decisions are being made. And if I can say one thing about our district, we have probably the greatest teachers. And I will say this publicly, and I said this to some of my friends today, of 4 kids through the district, 1 teacher I probably could have lived without. I'm not kidding. And I think that's a really amazing track record. So I'm really happy to be here, and hopefully I can serve all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Pam?
Hello there. I do recognize a lot of you out there. My name is Pamela Dowd. This is my 3rd year as a current board member. 2 years were wrapped up in COVID. So certainly I feel this last year that we finally are getting ourselves back on track, that, you know, now we have some really important work to do, and I haven't had enough time to do any of it yet. So that's why I am running again for the school board. Briefly, I have 2 children, 20 years apart. So I've seen huge changes in the Oswego City School District, to say the least. So yes, and I also have a grandson that does attend school. He goes to Fitchie Park. I also have a daughter-in-law that is a teacher, one of our fabulous teachers in our district. I've worked a lot of different service jobs coming up through life. Starting out as a waitress, was a bank teller. I've been an administrative assistant. I have been a legal assistant. I have been an accountant's assistant. I have been an office manager. Numbers I like, obviously, assisting in numbers. I currently work full-time at the Port of Oswego Authority. I'm a scales and inventory clerk. I do accounts receivable, and I'm the purchasing agent. And our administrative assistant retired, so I often find my phone ringing a lot from the executive director to help him out with whatever he needs. So, very busy there. I actually was very much involved with home and school at Layton Elementary School for the entire time my daughter attended, all 7 years, because you count kindergarten, and I believe I was the home and school president for 5 of those 7 years. Michelle, roughly, yeah. At that same time, I worked part-time for the Oswego City School District. I started out in food service. I was there for 5 years, and then 7 years, and I spent 4 years. I bid out and went as a school monitor. So I wandered the halls in this building for 4 years with the children, with our students. I really miss them a lot. And I really developed relationships with, not just the teachers in the building, the administrators, the support staff, and the students. So I think I have a lot of contacts out there in the district, and I always have my ears open and I'm always ready to listen to any concerns, accolades, whatever it is anybody out there needs to say. I will listen to you. If we can help fix it, we will. It's the best that I can do. I don't know if I really have anything else to say. I think you all know me by now if you're paying any attention to the board meetings. I'm never afraid to ask a question. I'm never afraid to dig into anything. I always try to be a problem solver, and I really often like to look outside the box. I'm not a real fan of, we've done this way all these years. Well, maybe it's time to change. I think we need some changes in the district. I think we can be greater, like we, in the past, were viewed much differently than we are now, and I would like to see this district get right back up to the top. I think we have the faculty, the staff, the administrators. I think we can do this. We just have to make some changes. It doesn't happen overnight. If we all work together, we can do it. I appreciate any support you give me.
Thank you, Pam. Lisa?
Hi, thank you. So my name is Lisa Glidden. I'm also an incumbent. I actually was a write-in candidate for the board when I got the ballot in the mail during COVID and saw that there was an empty seat, I thought, oh, that's not good. So I put myself forward as a writing candidate, and the last 3 years have been a huge learning curve. Like Pam, I finally feel like I understand what's going on and what education law, the tip of the iceberg of that. But so I'm hoping to do another term. I've lived here since 2007. I moved here for my job at SUNY Oswego. I'm a professor of political science, and I also direct our Global and International Studies program. I've been involved in a lot of things that also, like Julie, tend to be sort of my children related. I was on the board of the Oswego Figure Skating Club. I was on the Fitzhugh Park Home and School from the moment when my daughter started, and got great advice from Michelle and others. I've been an advocate for Oswego City School District for a long time, because we get a lot of faculty and staff who are moving to or coming to Oswego to work and aren't really sure where they want to live. And so I'm, sort of the booster for living here in Oswego, because I think it makes a big difference to live in the community that you work in, and to give back to that community. So sort of my well, this is child related. I've been a Girl Scout leader. I'm currently still involved with Girl Scouts, but at the service unit level for Oswego and Mexico. And I'm on the board of the Oswego Renaissance Association, and have been pretty active with that organization for the last 11 years. I guess I will leave it there.
Thank you, Pam. Jim? I apologize. Thank you, Lisa. Jim? It was me.
How do we do that? All right, we'll do this from here. You got me? We're good? All right, thank you. Hello, everybody. My name's Jim McKenzie. As Pam and Lisa have been, I've been on the school board for the last 3 years. I actually did have to collect petitions. I collected my last petitions on the day New York State shut down. I can say a couple people answered the door wondering why I was still out there. A month later, when they canceled the need for petitions, I was like, oh, okay, I already got them. But I got to meet a lot of nice people. My background, I come from a family of teachers, generations of teachers, really. I've been a teacher myself for for 26 years now. And when I talk to my students, at the college, where I've been working for the last 19 years, I like to tell them, I have not left school since 1979. I have been a student or a teacher every single August and September since I was 5 years old. It's what I've always loved. And so ever since I was a peer tutor in high school, when I was in college, I tutored friends. I was an education major. I did my student teaching at Forestville Middle and High School, a nice small district outside of SUNY Fredonia, which was small enough to have a combined middle and high school. From there, I moved to North Carolina for a little while and got graduate degrees from Western Carolina University and Wake Forest Medical School. I'm also a scientist, so not only do I teach, but I'm also a scientist. For the last 19 years, I've been here in Oswego working at the college. For the last 11 of those years, I've been an administrator at the college. I've been my departmental chair for 11 years now, which I help oversee 25 plus faculty. We have full facilities as a science biology department. We have a lot of facilities. I have multiple budgets and over 500 students that I help oversee. So after doing that for the last 11 years, I do believe I also bring some kind of middle management, educational administration experience to top my 26 years of teaching. Both of my kids have gone through our schools. Both went through Kingsford Park. My daughter's currently in the middle school. My son is in the high school. I will echo what Julie said. I have really maybe one teacher, and that wasn't in, it's amazing. And it's not surprising to me that many of the people that I see here were or are my children's teachers right now, right? I see people who are Kingsford Park, who are middle school, who are high school. I know that they are doing a spectacular job because I've paid attention to my kids' education. As a teacher, I couldn't help myself. I paid attention, and it's really been truly remarkable. I will say I cannot list off as many other community involvement as most people. I tend to be very guarded with my time because when I throw myself into something, it's 100%. And for those who have been looking at the school board or know me from my professional life, that's just the way I operate. So I try to make sure that when I get involved with something, I have the time to make sure that I do it the way I think it should be done. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Kristen?
Thank you. My name is Kristen Norfleet. I want to thank everybody for being here. I really appreciate that you all took the time out of your evening to come and listen to us, ask us questions, and be engaged in this process. And I appreciate the opportunity to actually be able to be here, and I thank OCTA and I thank the Home and School Associations for making that happen. A little background about myself. I'm originally from Rochester. I graduated from Fairport High School. I went to University of Rochester. From there, I went to Case Western Reserve in Cleveland, Ohio, where I got a graduate degree as well as my law degree. I'm a practicing attorney. I have been at my firm for 23 years. It's one of the firms down in Syracuse. I'm a senior partner there, and in that capacity, that puts me as a member of the executive committee that helps run the business. It also tasks me with training new attorneys. And we bring in new crops of attorneys every September who've graduated from law school and are waiting for their bar exam results. And we bring in law students every May through August. And I'm very involved in teaching and training them. I would never represent that I am an educator by any means, but I can tell you from dipping my toe in the process of training a lawyer, I have nothing but respect for people who've devoted their careers to being teachers. It's not easy, and understanding that everybody learns differently. I see that in just my microcosm that I work in a law practice, and I cannot imagine what it's like when you have 25 new kids come in your classroom, either each period or each new academic year, and having to understand what each child's needs are going to be and how you can best meet them. So my children, I have a son who graduated from Fairport High School, or I'm sorry, who graduated from Oswego last year. He just finished his freshman year at University of Florida. And my daughter is an 8th grader at the middle school. My kids, through their academic careers, have been blessed with so many amazing teachers. And I feel so fortunate that they've had that opportunity. They've been active in athletics, in volleyball, in soccer, in baseball, in basketball, and they've been very involved in the band program. And so I've had the opportunity to see a lot of different aspects of what Oswego has to offer. And I think that it's such a, I don't want to say crossroads, I feel like that's not maybe the right word. We have such this unique opportunity with having to bring in a new superintendent, with open positions on the board, with changing a socioeconomic dynamic in our district, that we can really try to meet every student's needs and try to look at things maybe differently and try to do better. You know, I jotted down a few notes before I came here of things I thought I wanted to say, and what I found I was writing down were adjectives, and I was writing down things like teamwork, listen, support, applaud the successes, collaborate, accessibility, and open dialogue. And I think that that's why I'm here. I'm here because I feel like I have something I can contribute. I've been a parent in the district. I've been a business person in the community. My husband and I have supported a host of organizations. We've volunteered our time to many organizations, whether it be the Boosters. I'm the president of the Middle School Home and School. I've worked with a dog rescue organization. I work with one of the sororities down at Syracuse as a mentor to all of their members. And I feel that now maybe is the time when I can give my time here, and that I could be helpful and I could be useful, and I would appreciate the opportunity to be able to come in and try to make a change.
All right, thank you. All right, that gives us a pretty good synopsis of everyone's background. So we're going to start right in. Jackie's going to be asking the first question, but I would be remiss if I didn't invite you all to have some snacks that the Home and School Associations, each of the buildings in the Oswego City School District, have provided snacks. So please make sure, as you're listening and enjoying the conversation, you get some snacks.
Fuel up. So just as folks know, as you were bringing more questions in, if they were similar to some of the other questions in here, I've tried to group them together. But to kick us off, Julie, if you can start, and then we'll go down to Pam. I thought you said, oh. Okay, so first question goes to Sean, and the next question goes to Julie. So in your opinion, what is the most important aspect of a school district's culture?
Well, I think culture is a big thing. I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the buck boosters and how we kind of shifted some of our emphasis. When the students, when the teachers come up to whatever building you go into, and that feeling of what you're going to do that day and what you're going to accomplish, I think it starts there. It starts before you get in the classroom. It starts when you're heading into work. I know with my company, my wife and my kids could attest to it, that I absolutely love my job. I believe that our teachers absolutely love their job and they're fully committed to it. But I think when there's a culture that, in my opinion, as of right now, it's a little bit damaged, that can bring down, what a teacher could deliver in the classroom and what they want to deliver every day. So if we can help support that and improve culture and spirit, so you're kind of wiggling your toes when you're coming in the morning, and however we can do that versus how's my day going to be? Is it going to be Groundhog's Day like yesterday? I really think we could make an impact on how our teachers perform and what they get out of their day. And I think that's a great thing about culture and the support of what we could do for our teachers, staff, and everybody in our school.
Thank you, Sean. Julie? And if anyone needs me to reread a question, let me know.
I don't know what else I can say. Thanks. No, I mean, I think it goes without saying that when you are going to a workplace and the culture is not great and the morale is down, whoever your customer is, whether it's, the people in you're serving in a restaurant, or you're taking care of elderly people, or you're taking care of students, if the culture's poor, we can't be our best. We just can't. I think what Sean said, I think at some point every teacher in this room loved their job, wiggled their toes going in, was like gung-ho when they came through the door, right? Because my field's the same. I think that not only is the culture not what it once was, I think that the combination of a pandemic on top of the changing needs of our population, our students, the culture is declined. It's not, you're not walking in like that. I don't want to speak for all of you, but I do speak with a lot of you. I don't, that's just what I'm hearing. And it resonates with me because I love my job too. I love it. And, I'm not looking in the rearview mirror anymore. I want to improve culture where I work, and I want to improve culture where you all work. And without a strong culture that's backed by administration, building principals, everyone, if everyone's not on board with creating this culture, then we're not going to get buy-in from any of our staff or our faculty. If they dread going to work, we don't have great employees. We just don't. So I think there's so much room for growth. And I'm not saying it's anyone's fault at this point. It's our changing community as a whole. All of our students are changing, and their needs are changing, and it's really, really very difficult, I'm sure, to do what you're doing on your own, keep a smile on your face when you need more support, possibly, and culture's morale is low. So is it important? Not only do I think it's important, I think it's at the very top of the list. So
Thank you, Julie. Pam? Could you repeat the question? You bet. In your opinion, what's the most important aspect of a school district's culture?
The most important aspect of the school district's culture is that it is a great culture. Like before me have said, if you don't like coming in, then you're not probably going to be putting your best foot forward. So yeah, we have to improve the culture in the buildings, and we do that with support, figuring out the areas that need more support, and it'll take the work of all of us. So we really need to get that culture up there.
Pam? Lisa?
Yeah. So I would say there's two aspects to what makes a culture. One is, I think, a sense of having like what in education they call a growth mindset, right? So understanding that our children are probably at different places and there's a lot that they have gone through in the last several years. But the idea that we can kind of set high standards and believe that they can get to those standards, I think having a growth mindset in general helps the culture of everybody. And I would say that it extends to the staff at a school as well. I think part of what leads to that growth is knowing that the district is willing to invest in you, or your job is willing to invest in you, but also that they'll trust you, right? And you'll trust them. So I don't know, I feel like that's three things I've said now, but trust, a growth mindset, and a feeling like what you do makes a difference and that that's recognized. So sorry, three things that make a good culture.
Thank you, Lisa. Jim?
Thank you. So to me, the most important aspect is that we have an environment that creates so students buy into their education, that they want to be there, they want to be active learners. Having been in 7th, 10th grade, graduate school, teaching people who are 40, 50 years old, one of the common things I've learned is that you cannot force somebody to learn if they will not participate. For those of you who are not teachers, I use the analogy, for those of you who are parents, it's trying to make your kid eat or use the bathroom. It's something that is very, very difficult to do just by saying, do it. They have to buy into it. They have to want to know why they're doing it, and that takes an overall culture. And so, you know, if I look at everything, it's enabling an environment in which teachers can foster that, and students can really see not only why they're there now, but why being there now is going to help them in the future.
Thank you, Jim. And Kristen?
Thank you. And that's a great question, actually, because one of my many hats at work is I'm on the hiring committee. And that question is asked by almost every single person who comes in. What's your culture? Why would I want to come work here? And so that it's so relevant on so many levels. And the answer that I give at work, I feel like, is the answer I want everyone to give here. I would want everyone who works for the Oswego district to say, I love my job. I love coming to work. I love everybody I work with. I feel like I'm supported from the top down. I feel like if I have a question, I can go ask it, and I'm not going to be criticized for it. The door is going to be open. I feel like no matter what the person's position is within the district, I can go in and talk to them and ask them questions, tell them what my concerns are, tell them where I need help, and feel that they're going to listen to me, and then they're going to do something to help me. And if that's not there, I don't see how we can have any of the other pieces that we need. So to me, the most important thing to shift a change is I feel that the faculty and the staff need to know that they are supported 100% from the top down, and that they can always ask a question, that they can always offer their opinion, that they can always make a comment, and they will never be criticized for it. They will never be told it's not appropriate. They will never be told that they shouldn't be talking to certain people within the district structure, that they always feel comfortable.
All right.
Thank you, Kristen. All right, second question, we're going to start with Julie. What do you feel our district needs to improve on first, and why?
This is a really difficult question because you're asking me what the most important thing is if you're saying first. But if I was going to say what was the first thing to work on, I would have to say our relationship with our community. And the reason I say that is because our district is in a greater community than we ever had. Our community is amazing, and it's come a long way over the years. And without the partnership of our district with our community members in the city of Oswego, we're kind of stagnant. And I think that that's happened. I think that our district leaders over the past, I'm going to say at least the last 3 plus the last maybe 6 or 8, 10 years prior to, there was no connection between our district and the community at all. Not because no one tried. I'm just going to say that. Not because it wasn't attempted to build that relationship. I think it's important to recognize that together we can do more. Our district can be so much stronger with the help and with the partnership of our local community outside the campuses that we have our schools sitting on. And I think our leadership and our administration needs to start to recognize that the Oswego City School District isn't on an island. There's a whole entire community out there that wants to cheer you all on, that wants to be behind you, that wants to support you, that wants to come and watch a football game, that wants to come in and watch the school musicals and the concerts. But I got to tell you something, they don't know anything about any of that because there's an island here, and unless you have children in this district, you don't necessarily know all those things. And I, for one, being born and raised here and raising my family, I love Oswego. I love this district. And together, the sky's the limit for our school. And I will stand here, and whether I sit on this board or not, I hope that the next Board of Ed group really hears that plead, that they have to reach out. There are city officials right now that want a partnership. They want to work together. They want to help build Oswego City School District to be the greatest, not in the county of the 9 districts, better than even the neighboring counties. Everybody wants that for our district. Believe it or not just the people not just all of you in this room, because you clearly care. Everybody wants it.
Thank you, Julie. Pam?
Repeat the question, please.
Absolutely. What do you feel our district needs to improve on first, and why?
Communication. It's not a dirty word. Communication lacks in this district, and it has for 20 years and more. That's what we need to improve on. We need to improve on communication between our teachers and our administration. We need to improve the communication between our teachers and our parents, and our students and our teachers. Just all around, we have to make communication a priority. That's kind of, the community will know what's going on if we can communicate it better. So, yeah, communication, it's not a dirty word.
Thank you, Pam. Lisa?
Yeah, this is really challenging. And actually, the answer I'm going to give is a little bit of a cheat because I feel like we have done some things that I'm hoping will pay off very quickly. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing the scores of the reading tests that happened last month. Unfortunately, we live in a world where people are going to look at data and they're going to Google our reports and they're going to see what the reading scores are in order to figure out if this is the district that they want their kids to be in. And so we've done, so have a new reading program, have a new reading director who's like aligning it across the district. And so I'm hoping, I mean, I guess I hope we can continue that priority because I think it's really important, but it sends a message that we are, that we're succeeding, right? And so we've been doing a lot of things from even before, you know, from being on the Home and School, we would go to the Home and School meetings, and there have been a lot of things that have been tried. And so, but it takes a while. Someone said this earlier, but you know, this investment takes a while to pay off. And so I'm hoping that that pays off because it's really hard to know all the wonderful things that are going on in this district that someone looks at a number on a website and then just writes us off. So that's what I'd say.
All right, thank you, Lisa.
All right.
Jim, thank you for passing the microphone. Sorry about that.
So I'm going to just say the same thing I've been talking about for a while. One of the things that the discussions we had about facilities efficiencies showed me is that I believe our class sizes are too large. If I look at group classes like the 8th grade currently, the 7th grade, there were 7th graders last year, the current 6th grade cohort, when I think about K through 3 literacy, kind of piggyback off what Lisa was talking about, I think that's where we're going to move the needle most, is trying to focus on better class sizes in literacy initiatives at the K through 3 level. When you get to 6th, 7th, 8th, and beyond, reading is social studies, reading is science, reading is math. Reading is what we need to be focusing on as a primary skill that will lead to success for every other subject area out there. And I think one of the ways that we really need to tackle it is by looking and addressing at class sizes. One of the things board members can do is bring that up, which I have. One of the things you can do is when we're setting classes in August as a board member, say, hey, how are we doing? Do we have new ones? Are we seeing a place where reorganization is necessary? And not that a board member is going to come up with any of those answers. It's not our job. But our job is to bring light to these situations where we think change needs to be made. And I do believe if you would look at a K through 3 class at a 22, 23, 24, especially if it is a regular ed class with one teacher, I just do not believe, based on any of my experiences, that that is what we should be doing to improve our learning outcomes.
Thank you, Jim. Kristen?
Thank you. First, I want to completely echo what Julie said and say that we have a community that's ready to answer the call, and we need to change the narrative where it's okay to make that call and to ask for help because they're willing to give it. And for some reason, that somehow got turned into a no, we don't want help from anybody, we're going to do everything ourselves, and we're turning down so many resources. But Julie talked about that, so I want to talk about something else. So in preparation to decide to run for school board, I felt like I certainly had the experience as a parent. I certainly talked to lots of parents. I'm friends with, know lots of teachers. But I thought I should go on a bit of a listening tour because I'm not an educator. I've never gone through what all of you go through. And so I've talked to lots of stakeholders. I've talked to teachers. I've talked to building principals. I've talked to parents who were teachers in other districts, but parents in this district. And I said to them, tell me what works, tell me what doesn't work, tell me what you want to change. And the message that I got almost unanimously was, we're not meeting the needs for every student. And when we ask for things to help us meet the needs for every student, we're being told no. Just to throw out a couple examples, but by no means does this encompass everything, it's been suggested to me. Things like some students cannot handle a 9-period day in the middle school or the high school. And we need to have options for them so that they can come in and learn when they're capable of learning, and then let them leave the building when they're no longer productive and now are just becoming disruptive. There's students who they need something they can be passionate about, and maybe it's not going to be math or science. Maybe it needs to be something else. But there needs to be something we're offering that makes every kid want to come to school. And when the educators, who are the experts, are saying, this is what I need so I can meet the needs of the students who are in front of me, we need to be saying, okay, let's make it happen. So to me, the most important thing we need to do, other than opening the doors and letting the community come help us because they want to, is we need to listen to the teachers, find out what they want that's going to make their jobs easier and enable them to teach all of our students, and do what we have to do to give them the tools.
Thank you, Kristen. Sean?
It's tough going last.
Everybody's going to get a turn.
I know. I know you've already heard it twice, but this is big where this community, this Oswego thing, the Oswego community has to be part of the Oswego City School District, and it's not. So I've heard past superintendents say that there's these connections and they're building that. I'm very, very plugged in because I've been here for so long with investors, with people that might not even have children in the school district that want to help. Okay, everybody else is getting stronger. We need to leverage that, and it can't be on an island anymore. So I'm just going to echo that. But for the number one thing that I think important to the school district is everything with a business starts with the human resources that you have working for that business. So I think the number one priority is the retainment and recruitment of the human resources that are in place in the Oswego City School District, and recruiting and being in a position to recruit the best available resources that are out there. Great resources are very much becoming a scarcity, and you're battling, okay, with other school districts, with for staff, for all the different positions that are available. We need to figure out, okay, how to, firstly, retain what we have, because we have great resources here, but we have to surround them with additional new great resources to make our foundation the strongest it can be. Nothing else happens without the best resources that you have.
Thank you. And we're going to go for the next question to Pam. There is some questions that were similar. I'm going to try to combine as well. Starting with, all of our students are important. How will you ensure that all students feel safe and supported regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation, or gender? And the second part, to include policies that also support our trans or non-binary students.
That's mine. Okay. Yeah, I know. No, I know. Well, we've started with the DEI initiative, and that's a big lift, and we started it, and I think that we can be successful with it. So that's going to help us. Safety and security, simple. We need, I really still would like to see a security officer in every building, not so much just to maybe wander around the grounds, but to make those connections with the students. We have so many students that are afraid of adults in authority or with a police figure, and they don't trust them. And I think if we start in the elementary buildings with security personnel making connections with those students, I think that we can start to eliminate those feelings that law enforcement or people that are out there to protect us are not, we can't trust them. So I think that that's one way. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. I also think that we may need to change the entrances to our buildings. I want to be proactive and not reactive. I think that we really need to create that. It's a drawer. It's a drawer. There's somebody at by the front doors with a drawer that pushes out for people to put their ID in. Unfortunately, we live in a very scary time, and it seems to be getting worse out there. Newport News, Virginia, probably never thought anything crazy would happen there either. They now have metal detectors in all of their buildings. Again, that was a proactive move. So I think that if we're, can also check that ID ahead of the person entering the building, because currently right now they're inside the building to have their IDs. Those of you that don't know, there's a Raptor system in every building. Any visitor to the building has to present their ID. It is scanned to make sure that they are cleared to be able to come into the building, and they get visitor passes and they're allowed in. Like I said, right now they buzz a buzzer, they're asked to identify themselves, they're let inside the building. Then when they get into the office or wherever area, that's where their ID is being scanned. I think that's too late. I think we need that before they're in the building. Repeat the question, because I'm not sure if I answered all of it yet. Please.
All of our students are important. How will you ensure that all students feel safe and supported regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation, or gender? In addition, what policies do you support for any trans or non-binary students?
We probably need to create a couple of policies in this day and age now to support those students. Yeah, education of all, I think will help with that area.
Thank you, Pam. Lisa?
So bear with me for a moment because I have a brief story to illustrate my answer. Yesterday I was on a Zoom call, a really large Zoom call of the Faculty Senate on campus, and half the people were in the room and about 49 people were online. And it was actually my first experience with Zoom bombing. I wasn't doing it, I was the recipient of it. And so what happened was, a slide was up, and then suddenly some people came into the room, and a swastika was drawn on the slide that was being shared. And then some pornography started going, people's pictures became, and it was all of black men. And then someone was speaking and targeting people in, for age and for gender. And the message was, you don't belong. Right? I mean, that's the message of it, right? Why would you start with a swastika, go to, right? It's picking out people who don't belong. And so I would say, and sorry, I could go on forever with this stuff, but what I would say is that our education system, a lot of it is a curriculum that was created that reinforces the status quo. And we don't live in that world anymore, right? We're not training our students to be factory workers. We're not living in a world where we could pretend like a third of the population doesn't exist. So I think it's important to, in terms of safety and security, is to make people feel like they belong, right? And they're part of the community. Right? It doesn't mean that people need to get extra stuff or special stuff, but that we recognize where maybe some of the messages we're sending are not, are exclusionary. So I would say that.
Thank you, Lisa. And Jim?
So I have been in support of our student resource officers. We're currently moving over to Oswego PD. We're adding another resource officer. We had 2 when we were with the county. We're moving over. Now we're going to have 3. So I've always been in support of that program and the security that we have in our schools. I think one of the things that I would really love us to work towards, and I don't know how to codify it in some policy, but is trying to move away from this innate human instinct to divide between us and them. We are all people, and we need to be able to foster respect. You don't have to agree with somebody. You don't even have to like all the choices they make. But we have to foster this idea where we respect one another. And I'm not a policymaker in this regard. I don't know where the best way to begin is. But I think we need to fundamentally agree that I'm not going to dislike somebody because I disagree with you. And if we can start fostering that narrative, I gotta believe that's a good start.
Thank you, Jim. Kristen?
That question's interesting because there's so many ways I feel like you could interpret what's being asked there. So some people have interpreted that as a safety. What I'm hearing are two things. I'm hearing mental health, and I'm hearing providing programming, whether it be educational programming or extracurricular programming, that meets needs of everybody, that everybody feels like there's something being offered for them, that there's a place for them. And on the mental health side of it, I think that we're woefully understaffed in the mental health section of what we're providing. I think more social workers in the schools, more resources available. I don't know whether the teachers feel like they need more training in that area. If so, make that happen. But to me, that's what I hear when I hear that question. What I hear is people need to feel like there's something that's for them at the school. And so we need to make that happen for them. And people need to feel they're safe. And how do you feel you're safe? Do you feel like you have people you can talk to? And those people are going to be supportive of you. And I think that's a mental health piece. And I'm not saying that we aren't trying, but I think that we can do better.
Thank you, Kristen. Sean?
I think Pam might have mentioned, but education and awareness. I sit on the OHS steering committee, and we've talked about, Principal Lanigan has talked about some orientation classes for freshmen. And I think when you have a freshman class coming into this new environment that has so many dynamics, and this is, middle school is one thing, but when you get into this building, it certainly opens up your eyes, and there's still more changing going on. It's very dynamic. So I think having a freshman orientation class for awareness and some education on this environment that they're going to be in for the next 4 years, and pulling in partners, I go back to the community thing, like Oswego Health, like these, some of our community partners, that's their strength, is to educate and let people know that it's okay to not judge and to accept. I think that would be a great way to start the education and awareness. From a physical safety standpoint, I know that my children don't feel safe coming into the high school every day. I know that teachers have told me that they don't feel safe coming in here every day. And it's not really only the penetration of someone outside coming in, but it's actually some of the population that's inside of the school that you have to monitor. There's that threat and those really bad situations that we all mourn over across our country. But there's a very serious threat internally in these buildings as far as physical safety. And with vaping and things like this, I also think that that's a health risk or a health safety that happens every day in our buildings, and we need help with community outreach and coming up with a plan to address that.
Thank you, Sean. And Julie, to wrap up this question.
I want to start with the safety piece. I don't have a student in the high school at the moment, but I will soon. And I recently spoke to another recent high school graduate. She graduated about 2018, and she had come back here to be a substitute teacher. She's probably a senior in college right now. And when she came home, her exact words were, "I don't know what happened down there. It's not the same school that it was when I was there." And that was just 4 years ago. And that really struck me hard. And I had been, I'm out in the community as well. And, there's chatter about, I'm with Sean, and Pam, not to dismiss what Pam and everyone else is saying about the real tragic situations that could happen. I think that safety and security really needs to be looked at closely internally. Students, Sean, your children should not be afraid to go to school, nor should teachers. You should not be afraid to go to school and to go to work. I can't even imagine working under those conditions. It's unfathomable. And that's what I'm hearing as well. So do I have the answers? I don't have the answers, obviously. I haven't said it yet, but I'm not a professional. But I'm really, I'm really good at asking questions, finding out what people are in the schools saying, what is happening, what can we do, what are some ideas. You know, I don't think anyone who sits on this board is a professional at what all of you do. I don't think so. No. So there's that. And then the other piece, the second part to that question about our differences, that's really what you're asking about. You know, our student population, and really the entire world is changing. People are changing, right? And I remember when my kids were very young in Kingsford, the big topic back then in all the assemblies, everything was all about bullying, how to address bullying in the schools. What's the difference between bullying and what's the difference between just goofing around on the playground? And it was effective. That's all they taught. I mean, we did a great job at it. But I think that we now need to look really close and adapt and make some changes as to how we're going to educate our students, how we're going to, you know, talk to them about accepting the differences and having respect for differences between them and their classmates. And I don't think I think it needs to start long before our freshman year. I think that even our younger students, even my son in 6th grade, is asking me questions. And I don't necessarily, as a mother, I think I'm doing okay answering them. But there's got to be other kids that are not getting that at home and not understanding what's going on. And then what are they doing? They're being mean because they don't know, they don't understand. So I really think with the diverse population, with all these students, everyone's different, and they should be. They should be. And different today looks really different than different looked years ago. So I don't know who's on first, but if you can figure that out. But so I think that education piece and really getting in there, and it will, Sean, it will take the professionals, and Oswego Health is a great example, people that know how to meet the needs of our students, all of them, whether they're having questions about their own purpose and their own identity, or the students who know who they are and don't understand who the kid sitting across the lunchroom table is. Like, we need to educate them. So,
Thank you, Julie.
yep.
Thank you. All right, next question. We'll start with Lisa. If a superintendent isn't in place by July 1st, what are the qualities you will be looking for in a candidate, and what qualities will you be hoping to avoid?
Well, we talked earlier about culture, and while I do think that actually culture, we have a culture, right? There may be things about it we want to change, and I think getting a new superintendent is the opportunity to really sort of maybe set a new tone. So the qualities that I would hope that superintendent has is a willingness to listen, to be open, to be thoughtful and recognize the implications of some of the decisions that may result. I think what I'm not looking for in the superintendent is someone who has the, I think the word I used was like, it's my way or the highway, that kind of approach, right? So like, I think, yeah. So, you know, not someone who's not going to be, or who thinks we should just replicate something that, you know, works someplace else, right? So I think you need to like take the time to get to know this community and then figure out, working with people who are here, what, you know, what can work here and how to achieve the kinds of outcomes that we want to achieve.
Thank you, Lisa. Jim?
So there are a great deal of things the board does that are kind of perfunctory. You approve things, you get reports in, but a lot of the things that matter the most are the things that take the most thought. One of the biggest qualities I can find in any leader is somebody who is willing to surround themselves with people who know more than them about a great many things. There are if you think of a superintendent, You've got personnel, you've got curriculum, you've got community, you've got sports, you've got non-sports extra. There's so many, nobody is an expert in everything. We are going to hopefully find somebody who has experience in the classroom, who has experience hopefully being a building principal. Those are the kinds of things that I believe are going to bring the institutional knowledge and background to be able to do it. But you also got to admit you don't know everything, right? Because I've found more times than not that talking through situations brings up new information that might change people's mind. So the ability to be a good leader, and you still have to be sure of yourself, but you also have to have that ability to keep an open mind that, you know what, I might not be looking at this the way I should be, and being able to listen to different groups and being able to do that. The thing I'm absolutely not looking in somebody is who's going to be using us as a stepping stone till their next job. As I've seen and heard as we've been doing our process, looking at NISBA, the board association, there seems to be superintendents, some of them hop around, some of them stay places a long time. Those districts that I've seen that they stick around a long time, not only the superintendent, but a lot of the upper management as well, tend to be some of the more higher performing districts. So I would like a superintendent who's going to be committed to be here for an extended period of time and buy into our community, not, well, if I get hired at this job, maybe 3 to 5 years, I could be making this at the next job.
Thank you, Jim. Kristen?
Thank you. To me, first and foremost, the superintendent needs to be 100% invested in Oswego. They need to be immersed in this community. They need to live in this community. They need to not only work in the admin building, but you need to see them at events. They need to be at things, both school-related and non-school related. They need to be a part of the Oswego community. And if they're not a part of the Oswego community, then they're not completely buying in, and they're not in it for all the right reasons. The only way that we can get the very best out of this community that we want is if everyone's working towards the same goal. So that's piece one in my mind. Second piece I think is really important is the superintendent needs to be a leader that is such a good captain of the team that everybody wants to be on their team. Everyone needs to feel like they can talk to the leader and that the leader is going to 100% support them. And if you don't have that environment, you're never going to get the best out of everybody. You know, one of the issues I think that we have here, and this is just me looking and me talking to people, but I think that people just don't feel like they're supported. And they just don't feel like this is a team environment with everybody having the same goal and everyone wants everyone else to be successful. And until that is the culture that we ask for, and that's got to come from the top, until that's the culture, we can't fix all the other things, right? So, you know, could everybody make a list of things they think we could do better in this district? Sure. Is everyone going to have the same list? Probably not. You know, some people are going to say that they think that we should have way better participation in sports. Like, why do we have so few kids on a football team? We can only have a varsity team and can't have a JV. Or why do we have to get rid of one of our modified baseball teams? Maybe that's what on some people's list, right? Other people's list might be that they want more AP classes, more honors classes. Somebody else might say they want more art stuff. There's lots of things people can make a list of, but if you're not being supported to be your best, you don't want to be a part of it, you can never get to any of those things because there's no one who's going to do those things. So we have to start at the top. And that's got to come from the board telling the superintendent what we want them to be. And we need to find a superintendent who wants to work with the board and not keep the board at arm's length. And a superintendent who wants to learn and wants to do what they can to support everybody here. And recognize they have awesome people here. So why are you working against them? Work with them.
Thank you, Kristen. Sean?
I think it's very critical. I think at this time, after the experience that we've had in the past 3 years, at least 100% of what I've heard and listened to is that it has to be something different. So what I don't want is a repeat of the last 3 years. I think it's very critical that this process that's coming up is done, with taking time, with getting the best person that's going to lead our district. But as Jim mentioned, any leader surrounds them, anybody at the top, okay, surrounds themselves and identifies the leaders that they have in their business. And when you guys are all in your classroom or faculty, staff, wherever you're at, you're a leader at that point in time. So they have to be listening and identifying the leadership skills within, our Oswego City School District community that we have today, and pulling ideas and making that part of the solution and the execution of how we get better. How are we going to attack? How are we going to overcome this? I'll go back to the community thing. It can be written in newsletters. It can be said again and again and again that a superintendent is embedded in our community, has the community connections. That wasn't true. So let's just be real. That wasn't in place. That has to happen to have those relationships, and you have to live here. We can't every year give passes where a superintendent who's the leader in our community gets a pass and they don't have to live in our community. That has to change. That was a mistake in my opinion. Lastly, they have to listen. Again, you have to be a great listener. You have to be open. You have to take recommendations, and you have to build it into the plan on how you're going to, put solutions in place and make our school district better. Leadership has to be very strong. It has to look different and be stronger and be more open with the group that's out in front of us tonight than it certainly has been in the past three years.
Thank you, Sean. Julie?
Can I have that question really quick? Because there's a piece that
Absolutely.
I need to hear.
If a superintendent isn't in place by July 1st, what are the qualities you will be looking for in a candidate, and what qualities would you be hoping to avoid?
So everything that Kristen said, everything that Sean said, and then some. But let me touch on the few things they didn't touch on. Not only do they have to be a listener, they cannot make decisions behind a door about what all of you are doing, all of the teachers. There is nothing worse than someone else making big decisions about how you should be instructing, teaching, what you should, everything. And I can only relate it to healthcare, and I'm sorry, I'm not in education, but I'll tell you that, we're in the same boat. People in Albany make decisions about what we have to do and how we have to care for the elderly, and it's wrong. They don't come to where we are to see how difficult it is. They don't come to see, the challenges that we face every day. They make decisions at a table not knowing. So we need a superintendent, people, that's going to ask and come and listen and find out really how is this decision we're making going to affect, one, our students, two, our teachers, and everybody else. And again, that hasn't happened, not in the past 3 years. Sean is correct. And truthfully, the beginning of that question about if a superintendent is put in place by the 1st of, is it June? July
1st, the question says.
So that's all. It's a great plan. I mean, I guess it's a great plan. It seems rather rushed to me. It seems like I hope that we have some really great candidates that come to the table, but if we don't, it should be extended. If there's not candidates that are fitting the bill of everything I'm hearing at this table, we better go back and start searching, because we can't settle. We cannot settle. Because otherwise, we're going to be sitting here 3 more years talking about it again. And we can't afford to do it. We can't. And I know it's been said here, but they need to live here. I mean, it might be the first question, whoever's doing it, you need to say, you got to live here. There's not even a question, in my opinion. I mean, it really goes back to everything we've been saying about community. If we don't have a leader that is with us, living in this town, understanding the dynamics of our community, recognizing the relationships that need to be formed with our city of Oswego and our county, understanding who our teachers are, understanding who our students are, then we might as well not even have, let's just it would be devastating to our district. I'm almost at a loss for words if that ever happens again.
Thank you, Julie. Pam?
So going last, you get to say, oh, everything that everyone has said here, I, could have had on my list too. And I do. Visibility. Someone who listens to what people are saying. Not hears, but listens. They need to be organized. Honesty. I really need honesty in a superintendent. And like, I believe it was Jim said, a good leader surrounds himself with good people. That's what we need. I don't want a boss, I want a leader. So what I'm not looking for is a boss or someone who just wants to my way or the highway. It's not what this district needs at all. It does. It needs a listener. It needs someone who's been in the trenches so that when when a superintendent is asking the faculty or the staff, they actually understand what the response is because they've been in the trenches. So yes, just like everyone else, we need a strong leader who will listen and provide the needs the teachers need to help support our students.
Thank you, Pam. So this next question goes first to Jim. With the necessary emphasis placed on, quote, closing the gap in reading and math, what steps would you take to ensure students are receiving a balanced education that also includes the arts?
Again, from a board standpoint, it really boils down to being an advocate during the budget process, working with the team to make sure that those things are funded to the level that they need to be to do what they want to do. I have been a big proponent for expanded activities, not only things like intramurals at the lower grade levels, but anything and everything we can do to get students more involved outside of the classroom. I think it has a two-pronged approach. One, if they're in school-related activities, they're not running around doing just other stuff. I'm not going to assume all the other stuff is bad, but some of it could be prevented if students had a place where they enjoy being in a structured, controlled manner. And this has to include the arts because there are a lot of people that are just not into sports. They are, for various reasons, that's not what they are most comfortable with. So the arts, whether it is the plays, we had an announcement today about the next play that the high school's putting on. We should see as many plays as we can cram in and have the budget to do the appropriate clothing, to do the props that are necessary, that we should be helping our marching band. Our marching band has 70, 80 students in there, right? That is a big draw for students, but I think we could budget-wise be doing a bit better to help support them, right? So it's one of those things, it's tough as a board member when we get, what can you do? Because as a board member, you are one of 7 votes, and the superintendent is your only employee. But there's 7 of you. And so I've learned that, advocating is the way to work on it, but you're also gonna not always get exactly what you want. The point is to be consistent year after year after year, saying the same thing until somebody goes, yeah, I've been thinking about that. We've been talking about, let's do something about that. Sometimes it takes a while to make it happen, and you just have to have the institutional knowledge and the fortitude to say, I know I've said this before, so I'm sorry if I'm a broken record, but now's the time when we talk about this, so I'm going to talk about it again until I'm not in the position to talk about it.
Thank you, Jim. Kristen?
Thank you. First, I guess I would go back to what I've been saying all along is we need to have programming that meets everyone's needs. So you need variety, you need options, things that appeal to people. But the other thing I want to hit on is something, because I feel like I can be kind of smart about it, is I've been going to band concerts since my son was in 4th grade. He's now 19. My son played trumpet, my daughter plays saxophone. I've been to a lot of band concerts. And I can tell you that starting from when he was in 4th grade at Kingsford up through his graduation, and then my daughter starting in 4th grade at Kingsford and now through 8th grade, COVID took a toll on the band program. And because at the middle school, they combined band and orchestra for concerts, so I'm able to see that as well, took a toll on the orchestra program. The number of students that participated in those programs when my son went through the school and the number of students that are there now, it's literally like 50%. So to me, and I promised myself I wasn't going to do real specific stuff because I'm not really in a position to like say, we should do this program, boom. But it seems to me that we need to start in the elementary schools, making kids excited about being in band and orchestra. And I'm just wondering, kind of like throwing it out there, if maybe one of the ways you do that is give them access to maybe have the high school wind ensemble come in and perform for them, or maybe the jazz band to come in and perform for them and talk to them a little bit about it and maybe get them excited about it. Because I feel really bad for the music program, especially the band and orchestra people. They're super talented. They're such an asset to this district. And I know from listening to my husband talk, who graduated in '88, that when he was in high school, the number of kids who were in the band program was apparently like epic. And now it's so small. But the talent of the teachers in that program is so amazing. If we could just figure out a way for students to see that when they're little and they have to make that choice about wanting to be in band or orchestra, and try to bring them back in, because COVID was brutal. There's so many kids were lost, and I get it. I mean, how hard is it to go to band online? I mean, it's impossible. I mean, I get it. But so many students were lost in that process, and we need to figure out how to make them excited about it in the elementary school and set the tone there and hope that it goes all the way through up to the high school.
Thank you, Kristen. Sean?
Would you please repeat the question?
You bet. With the necessary emphasis placed on closing the gap in reading and math, what steps will you take to ensure students are receiving a balanced education that also includes the arts?
I think a couple things that we tried to do with the boosters is to get those two demographics, is specific to athletics and band, music. There were some attempts there because we were focused on culture to not only invite the marching band or the pep band to some of the athletic events, but then for the athletes to reciprocate that, which very rarely happens, for athletes to go to the Pageant of Champions and sit there and be part of that group and cheer on, all the musicians that we have. It's really through some culture building that I think that we can bring the different groups together so that they're one student body and they're in support of one another. And I do think that starts, certainly down in the elementary schools to start building that up. I know that one thing that I've heard over the years, and I want to learn more about how we can't just make it happen, is after-school busing. So we have a change in demographics, and it's great that some student athletes can have their parents come and pick them up after work and bring them home, but we're missing a whole group of people because we can't figure out how to have an after-school bus route where they can stay here and stay here and not on the streets and participate in athletics, and or if there's band practice or anything like this. That's been talked about for years and we haven't put it in place, and I just don't see how we can overcome that obstacle. So I think that'd be helpful as well.
Thank you, Sean. Julie?
I think it does come back to offering up a diverse extracurriculars for our students, not just the arts, but in every arena. And I think, Kristen, if you or someone could find a way to keep the interest of our young students to continue to stay with the music program to help build it at the higher levels, I would like to know, because my fourth is about to drop the bass going to the middle school. So I'm really bummed about that. And I don't know what has happened to have that break off at that age. But other than it's a transition going into the middle school. But I do think it's important. And I do think that Sean brings up a great point in the fact that the student population, as well as our community, as well as teachers, all of us should be supporting all of our students in their extracurricular endeavors. And I see that happening a lot in our district. But I mean, let's face it, I think that it does come down to a lot of hyping, promoting, getting people excited about arts and other things. I mean, I guess it's naturally to hype you up for sports, right? I mean, everybody knows how to get pumped up about a big game. But when it comes to music, it's really, I really truly think that we have incredibly talented students that need to have something that sheds light on what amazing talents they have and what opportunities they have for them in the middle school and the high school. And I want to leave you with this one story, and please don't tell him I said this, but the orchestra teacher at Kingsford Park, I'm going to give you an example. He's amazing, and he is out there every single day with his orchestra students after lesson, and he's creating a bond with them, and he's shooting hoops or playing chess or doing checkers or talking about sports or whatever, and he's almost creating an interest in them to stay with the instrument that they're playing. And I see this just on a really small scale of what he's doing. And I commend him for that. And I'm sure there's other music teachers in our music programs, because I know whoever sat at this table, they're all spectacular. And believe me, I wish all my kids stuck with it. I still, it's one of those things, it's unbelievable to watch. And I really look forward to hoping that if we do build some community relationships, I'd like to see our entire community know when there's an orchestra concert down here in our theater. I would like them to know that. I would like to know. I think there's people that would want to come, but again, it's one of those things that's internal. So how do we grow that program? It's just one way.
Thank you, Julie. Pam?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Of course. With the necessary emphasis placed on closing the gap in reading and math, what steps will you take to ensure students are receiving a balanced education that also includes the arts?
Jim said it best. It does come down into budget so that we can financially support those areas more when they need it. But again, promotion of the programs out into the community so that they know to be able to come to those concerts, those events, those musicals that are so fabulous. You'd think you're on Broadway. If no one has never been to a high school musical, please go to it. It is amazing. It is. I think Kristen hit on something. I think that if they bring the older kids down into the elementary level, show them what they do, how much they've improved, I think that might build that interest in them. But bottom line is, it's a budgeted thing. We need to provide more money to those areas for sure, just to increase their demographics.
Thank you, Pam. Lisa?
So I'll take just a little bit of a different tack because, I mean, I agree with a lot of what has been said about the extracurriculars, but I think that there are also ways that we could infuse arts into reading and into math and into the other parts of the curriculum where, students may not even be aware of the connections, right? So you can play mathematical equations and you can, with writing and with reading, like the choices that, again, if the teacher would want, but we treat each of our subjects as if they are completely discrete and separate from each other, and really we live in a world where everything is very interconnected. And it would be nice if I realize our curriculum comes from New York State, or our outcomes come from New York State, but I think we can have our curriculum reflect some of that interconnection that takes place in the other areas as well. I know one of the things that we funded for next year, I think, is a focus on esports and on games. And so, for example, one of the things you can do is have like historically accurate artwork for the esports, right? Or for video games, right? So there are ways that you could infuse art into a lot of other places in the curriculum, because that, what every employer out there says that they want are creativity and people who can think outside the box. It's not just the technical skills, because those can be taught. But creativity, you kind of have to let your mind, go. And so, yeah, I'll leave it at that one.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Kristen, this question will start with you. What do you see as your most important purpose as a school board member?
I think listening and supporting. So I'm someone who, one, I very firmly believe don't complain unless you're willing to try to fix it. And two, if you need me to help you, I'm one of the first ones in line that I'm willing to volunteer my time to do that. So I'm a yes, we can figure that out, and now not a no, we can't do that person. So in my mind, my role is most certainly not to tell teachers how to teach, not to tell them what to teach, not to tell buildings how to set up their schedules, how to run their programming. My job is to talk to all the stakeholders, whether that be a building principal, a teacher, a staff member, a student. I want to know what they're really excited about, and I also want to know what they want help with. And I think the role of the board is to have those conversations and then try to help them implement and make happen the things that they think would make our district better. And secondarily, I think the role of the board is, the way I look at it, the superintendent sits at the pleasure of the Board of Education. And so the Board of Education should be controlling the outcome of the superintendent, as opposed to the superintendent controlling the outcome of the Board of Education. So in my humble opinion, the Board of Education should tell the superintendent the tone that they want this district to have. And if the superintendent's not matching that tone, then the board needs to step in and change it and not allow the superintendent to control them and control the messaging and tell them what they can and can't do. So, but most importantly is I want to be a cheerleader for the people in the district and be the person that can help them make happen what they think would make their lives better, make them better as teachers, make their school better.
Thank you, Kristen. Sean?
As a board member, I think definitely listening. I am not in education, but I do over the years. I had the experience of going through this process when my wife was on the board, and I definitely learned a lot. So I think in this position, listening and learning, I do have a lot to learn about inside of here, but I can do that with all the great people that I think work in the school district. So just being open to listening and learning. And then one thing that I don't think happens here either is making our community aware of the great things that are going on here. I think that our community hears about the things that don't happen or aren't like on par or above par, but I'd really like to try to figure out and learn how we can open things up so that our community trusts, believes, and sees like the people in this room, the commitment and them shining and what they're trying to do for students and taxpayers, quite frankly. And I don't think that there's a spotlight, a positive spotlight that's put on the Oswego City School District. I think we can put it there. I think we can get people to start to pay attention, and I think that we can start to get our community to be more engaged in supporting everything that's needed in our school district. So I think that's a role that I could play, and certainly have a lot of discussions about how we can instead of why we can't, because that has to go away.
Thank you, Sean. Julie?
Well, I too am never going to claim to be an expert in education. And I think over the years, I've been pretty good at separating what I know as a parent and what I don't know as a teacher. However, there are three things I can do. I can listen, and I can learn, and I can certainly support. And really, I think that's so important. in any job or on any board. And I don't think that board members have a role or a purpose of, in my world, they say, getting in the weeds. I'm not really into getting in the weeds, but I am into helping make our district great. And I shouldn't say it's not great. Make it greater. Make it what I know it can be. I know that we have the right people in our schools. We have all the right people in our schools. And if my purpose is to sit at the table and help build upon what we have, have a superintendent or be part of molding, because I don't know if I'll be part of the decision process, but help teach a superintendent what we need or talk to them about what we need for our district. Because truly, I think that I have no business trying to tell anyone that's in our schools how to do their job. But at the same time, I think I'm a doer. I like to listen to what the problem is. I try to problem solve with people. I ask them what they think will work, and I'm willing to bring it back to the table and discuss it at the Board of Ed level. I'm not afraid to talk about what the real challenges are and how we can fix them. And I want to echo what Sean said. It's exhausting living in a world where it's always, no, we can't. It's absolutely exhausting. I'm tired. I hate it. Like, I want to live in a world, and I try to. Okay, this sounds really hard. Let's talk about how we can do it. Not immediately, no. Let's think about it. Let's go talk to, Susie over in this building, or, Johnny in this department. Let's find out how we can make this happen. If it's not going to cost a ton of money and or we have the money and it's going to benefit our students, let's figure out how we can do it.
Thank you, Julie. Pam?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. What do you see as your most important purpose as a school board member?
The most important purpose of a school board member is supporting the school community by supporting our teachers, by supporting our administrators, by supporting our parents and our students. One way to do that is to hold a superintendent accountable in his job duties, their job duties. I guess I'm stuck because we had a his. And listen to all stakeholders out there, not just administrators, not just students, every stakeholder out there. Everybody has a voice, everybody has an opinion. It doesn't take anything to listen, and like Julie says, you collaborate together and you figure out how to make it better, how to change something that hasn't been working for many years. The world is changing, and we as a community, we have to know that we have to change with it. And what is going on out there, we have to be aware of it. And we have to do whatever we can to support our teachers so that they can support our students, all of our students.
Thank you, Pam. Lisa?
So I think the purpose of a board member, it's actually can be a relatively limited role, right? So you have one employee, which is the superintendent, and you sort of help set I think you said that earlier, Jim, right? You sort of set the parameters for what you're looking for, and where those come from are from the voters, right? So I think we tend not to think about ourselves this way, but we are public officials. And when you're a public official, you are there to convey the wishes of the public, right? So I think there are places where you can, bring up ideas or insert ideas, try to get conversation around things. And on that, I think I would like to just end with, we have a lot of impact on the narrative of this district. And if you are on Facebook, I think there are some really positive narratives and there are some really negative narratives. And so I would recommend, counter those negative messages when you see them on Facebook, because there's a lot of negative things out there that aren't even, accurate. And there's a lot of, if you follow the Oswego City School District Facebook page, it is constantly promoting the positive things that are happening in the district. So we can be part of that messaging as well. And I think that's also a very important purpose of a board member, is to help promote that and be a voice of the positive.
Thank you, Lisa. Jim?
Yeah, so I kind of broke this down. It said most important, but I'm kind of viewing this in a lens of a few things that all tie into the overarching idea of what I think a good board member brings. And first, it starts with the willingness to understand, learn, and analyze every issue that comes in front of you, regardless of one that you got on the board because I really wanted to do this, something that I've been invested in for decades, something you've never known about you're being asked to vote on. You need to be willing to come and make the effort to ask questions, to openly listen, and so that you can make informed decisions. And part of those decisions is communicating with the public. A lot of times I find that decisions are made and then I encounter people in the public and they don't truly understand the narrative that we were trying to give for whatever reason, right? It's up to us to make sure, whether we're in a public forum, during an open board meeting, or meeting people outside in public, that we're very clear about why we're doing things. I find a lot of times people may disagree with you, but if they know that you thought about it, if they know that you were genuinely thoughtful, they may not agree, but they at least respect and can at least somewhat accept the outcome, even if they're not in agreement. And I think this goes to the district employees as well. But as a board member, what you're facilitating is being an active listener and helping facilitate through proper channels. Right? You need to make sure that the board is a last stop of things, that everything has been exhausted. Sometimes because you're a friend, you're a relative, you're a neighbor, that sometimes they're more comfortable talking to you, but you need to be willing to go and say, okay, I hear you, I understand. Have you spoken with this individual yet? Have you pursued this line? Is very important, because when it all boils down to it, my last thing is collegiality. If we don't have collegiality, we're shooting ourselves in the foot for everything moving into the future. Thank you. We can't work in a way where I am not going to listen to somebody's opinion because of the person who's saying it, because they've disagreed with me in the past in a way that maybe I took offense to, right? I think we all need to weigh, it's kind of this us and them thing. I can't tell you the number of times I've been in a minority vote, or a minority vote of one. But I do feel as though at least I communicated my thoughts in a productive manner. So maybe the few people out there who were listening, who cared, who are also in the minority, go, you know what? They thought about that. You know, somebody thought the way I did, even though it didn't come out the way. And it's that collegiality that allows you to then go to the next difficult conversation and still work together as a group. Because once you fall apart as a group, you're going to have problems. And as a group, I will counter the one thing that I've heard in the public sphere, and maybe a couple times tonight. I do believe that a superintendent needs to be the superintendent of a school district, not of a particular board. If we are going to have a superintendent that sticks around 5, 10, 15 years, you're not going to have the same board for 5, 10, 15 years. I know some people who have been on school boards for 20, 25 years. They are typically the anomaly. We need to have a superintendent who is going to work with the community, who is going to work with the board, but also does have a clear vision of their own. And then, if that is not aligning with boards, there are annual superintendent reviews. Contracts have a certain amount of time. If something is happening over time, that there needs to be a change at the top, that is the mechanism I believe the board should go about doing it, as opposed to a particular issue or two that you're very thoughtful of and saying, I know as our newly hired academic leader, we're entrusting you with our district, but this is how you're going to do something regardless of what you think, and this is the way we think. I go back to my previous comment on the qualities of a superintendent should be the same qualities as a board. Somebody who's going to keep an open mind and think through every issue, understanding sometimes I don't have all the answers. Sometimes that answer may come a year after the decision was made, but we need to at least be able to work together in a thoughtful, collegial manner using analytics and using data to support our decisions.
Thank you, Jim. So we have time enough for closing statements. We're going to start with the video of Bill Braun, but I wanted to take a moment to thank everyone that came out this evening. We had exponentially more questions than we had time for, so I very much value each of the time that you put in and thoughtful questions that you have. I encourage folks to continue to attend board meetings and ask those questions of our current and future boards as well, because there's so many important issues that were brought up in the questions we didn't get to today. But without further ado, I'm going to have you start the video, and then each of you will have a brief opportunity to also have a closing.
Some of you may know that I offer a distinctive focus on parent rights among those campaigning for a seat on the board, especially as it relates to LGBTQ children. I am transparent and honest on this. It is a conversation. Some of you may know that I offer a distinctive focus on parent rights among those campaigning for a seat on the board, especially as it relates to LGBTQ children. I am transparent and honest on this. It is a conversation taking place across the country. I believe that parents have fundamental rights to know what is taking place in the schools with their own children, and this must be balanced with the rights of children and with concerns for their physical safety and their emotional health. I believe that state and federal laws have some ambiguity, and for my part, I'm willing to work out details of a policy in discussion with people who may have some disagreements with me. But fundamentally, I will try to support parent rights. My base position is that school personnel should not be initiating communication with children on LGBTQ topics without parent knowledge or participation. I welcome dialogue on all of this. I don't expect all people to agree with me on all points, and I don't think I would always get my way on the board. But I do like and respect respectful dialogue. You can count on that for me. Thank you.
And we'll go next to Sean for your closing.
Well, thanks again for this opportunity, putting this together. I think this was great, and look forward to the next steps. I kind of want to share, when I decided to do this, well, I won't say what my wife told me, but people come up to me in our community, and they're like, "Are you crazy? Like, this is thankless." And I am straight up and immediate with my answer back to them that it's not thankless. When you look at something and there's an opportunity where you can work with other people to make a great impact and change, I don't think it's thankless. And I think it's much better to actually contribute instead of in a kitchen, over the phone, at a soccer game, like complaining about things. That doesn't really do anything for the improvement of our school district and our community. So I kind of turn it on them, and I tell them they're crazy for not being involved, engaged, and aware of the great things that are going on in our school district and how we can make them better. I think when I look at a school district and a community, that there's significant pillars within any great community. And I really, truly believe that the strongest pillar, especially when you're attracting, people talk about Micron and new people moving here, I think one of the most attractive pillars are the school districts in that community. So I think that we have great infrastructure with our teachers, with our staff, that we can build off of this and really, really, really strengthen that pillar. That's the big opportunity they look forward to and trying to contribute to that. There's a saying that it takes a community, and I think that's some of the things that we've talked about tonight, is that we really have to open up, whether it be maybe our facilities, our gyms, what we are in the Oswego City School District has to be opened up to our community. I think the return on that will be reciprocated, and I think we'll get a lot of resources that are out there to help us in this shared lift that we really want to go through. And infusing culture change. You know, I loved coaching when kids were like 5, 6, 7, because it gets more difficult. Coach Patney can attest to this when they're older because they think they have all the answers. But when they're little and they're up at the soccer field at Benjamin Fields, it's what you get out of them that they don't think they can do. And I think that's what having a positive culture, it distracts even young adults that are at the high school or middle school level. I think a positive culture can distract them from the negative things that might happen there. And I think that's an art and that's a technique. And I think that's pretty cool. And that's what when I talk about culture and really changing the culture here, that's what I'm speaking to. And just working together, it doesn't mean we always have to agree. It doesn't mean that it has to be a 7-0 vote. I actually do appreciate when Jim, thinks through things and has a discussion. Discussion's fine. And it has to happen a lot more in this school district. Listening, discussion, and to my last point, it goes into transparency. When I talk to community members, they don't believe there's a lot of transparency in our school district. They don't trust our school district. They certainly aren't aware of a lot of things that are going on here. And therefore, I think they hold back on the support that you guys need and you deserve. So just building some transparency, trust, awareness, and support from our community. I really look forward to that opportunity to try to help this group that's in front of us tonight and just make this even better than it is today. So thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Sean. Julie?
I think I would just want to say that thank you for having me. This was really, I'm so thankful that so many people are here, and it shows that you care, obviously. You care about our students, you care about our district, you care about our community. I've sat here and watched so many people nodding their heads and understanding what a lot of us at this table are saying. So for me, it's really reassuring that I'm in the right place. And it's exciting. And I'm with Sean. People say that, you're crazy. It's like, no, I'm kind of excited. Like, I think that this is an opportunity that can't be passed up if you have the willingness to sit at the table and try to help build our district. And I won't say too much else other than I really am super happy that this district has so much potential and that hopefully I can be a part of it. And if you've ever received an email from me, at the end of my email, my tagline has been the same for many years, and it says something that kind of Sean touched on. You have no right to criticize it if you don't have the will to change it. And I have the will, and I think that I can be part of that change, the change that our district needs. And I'm really looking forward to it if in fact I'm sitting at a table come July. And if I'm not, I'm gonna really try to be very active in helping build that community school district relationship, because I do think it's essential and critical to our success as an entire community. Thanks.
Thank you, Julie. Pam?
Thank you, all of you, for coming out tonight and giving up your couple of hours, 2 hours, that you can't get back. We appreciate that, and it shows that you care. And if we don't have caring people, we're going nowhere. We got a lot of work to do. I'm hoping that you put me back on this board so I can spend 3 more years trying to carve out the goodness and the greatness that's here. I like to think I'm a champion for the underdog, and I will always fight. If any of you have watched any meetings, you know, I ask questions, Jim asks questions. I want the answers. I usually don't give up. Sadly, none of you have been able to experience any executive sessions, so my fellow board members can say, yeah, I don't give up. And I think that we can make this district greater than it already is, and I think that we owe it to our teachers, our faculty, our staff, and our administrators to do the best that we can when we're listening, when we're communicating. You know, I was semi in the trenches. I didn't teach, but I did teach. I wasn't in the classroom, but the time I spent in the hallways with students, I'd like to think that I helped them, guide them in the right directions, help them maybe make some decisions. It's amazing the people that kids will talk to when they need to. So I just, again, thank you. Thank you to OCTA and Home and School for putting this on for the community. I think it's very important. How are people supposed to know who to vote for if they don't meet us and understand what we're trying to do? So if you support me again, I will keep battling away to bring this district back up to the top. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Lisa?
So I'm going to take a page from the Oswego Renaissance Association, which builds on something called the Healthy Neighborhoods approach, which is that you focus on the positive. Every institution, every school district has its negatives. And I will probably sound naive when I say this, but I think it is really important to focus on the positive. The culture of no, the culture of naysaying, the culture of we'll settle for this because we don't think we could get any better, pervades communities, right? And that's where you can make interventions and really make a difference. So I have really appreciated being on the board for the last 3 years. I think I completely recognize that the challenges our students are facing are different than the ones that we faced. But I think we also need to be honest with ourselves and recognize that kids were smoking in the bathroom in high school when we were in high school. So there's a lot of blaming that goes on of students, and I think not a lot of understanding maybe of some of the other challenges. I think there's a lot of buying into moral panics about what's being taught in classrooms and what teachers are initiating that is not happening. And I realize that change is different, and we live in a society that's changing very rapidly. And that can be a really scary thing. Events like this, where we can actually get to know one another and get to speak with each other, I think go a long way into helping building trust. I will finish by saying that we disagree on a lot of stuff. And I don't know that you see that necessarily at board meetings, because I think ultimately we have the quality of our kids' education, right? The quality of the education in the Oswego City School District at heart. And I think that that's probably true of everybody up here. So there are 4 seats open. There are 7 candidates running. I think it's a sign of a healthy democracy to have contested elections. So good luck at the polls, and don't forget to vote on May 16th.
Thank you, Lisa. Jim?
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to Home and School, to OCTA, and all of the people who came just to learn more about us. I think from my background as a teacher, as an administrator of higher education, as a research scientist, I think I have skill sets that allow me to deal with complex issues and deal with individuals and understand students to the degree that I can make informed decisions that are useful to our district. I think as a parent, I bring that perspective of seeing what my students are involved in every day. And it pains me to hear that some students don't feel comfortable or don't feel safe at school. To piggyback off of Lisa, it's not everybody. I have not heard that, thankfully. I've not heard that from my own children. All right? Don't even know where the gut would go if that's how I thought my children felt. So I do want to at least say that I I want to start to focus on all the positive things. We can't ignore negatives, but to constantly be harping on the negatives as opposed to looking at real solutions to fix them, that's the positive approach that I would bring to anything. Because I do believe that a lot of the decisions that a board makes is really affecting the district 5, 10, 15, or 20 years from now. And if I'm lucky enough to have my grandchildren in this community, that's who I'm working for. My 8th grader is done in 4 years and I'll get 5 weeks, right? We absolutely can make differences for our current students. Absolutely. We make choices all the time. Expanding extracurriculars, doing all of the things, the sense of community, our brand new curricula. Nobody's brought up today. Our next gen curricula are being rolled out. They're part of our strategic plan. I've heard people talk about a crossroads. I like to think of us as a transitional phase. We started with a strategic plan that myself and other board members were on. There were a lot of people. We spent a lot of Zoom meetings. We had teachers, we had administrators, we had people from the public. Board members were on it. We did Zoom meetings. We had a whole day up at the college where we had 2 conference rooms. We implemented a strategic plan, and we're getting together now new curricula that I believe are going to lead to greater success of our students as a whole. This is something we need to keep up and pay attention with. So the idea that all of a sudden we're going to reinvent the wheel, I think that would detract from the great things that we're currently looking to implement now.
Thank you, Jim. Kristen?
Thank you, and to echo what everyone else has said, thank you everyone who came and took the time to be here. Thank you for writing out questions. Thank you for giving each of us the opportunity to answer them with our own personal takes on things, our own interpretations. There is such an opportunity here to try to catch up with all of the other great things that have been happening in the city in the past. I moved here in 1999 when I got married, and I remember when I moved here, and I know that it was certainly the case before that, that when management would get rotated into Novellis or would come into the plants, they would all live here. And I know now that they live in Syracuse. And now, this whole area is excited about Micron coming. And so, the obvious question is, well, can we get Micron people to come live here? And it's really the same question as, why are the people at Novellis, why don't they live here? Why do the people who work at the plants not live here? It's not because this place isn't beautiful. It's not because there hasn't been a ton of building and development in the city, that buildings have been rehabbed, all the great stuff that Renaissance Foundation does, that my husband and I have been huge supporters of, to help people to make their houses look better and take pride in where they live. So there's one more piece to the puzzle, and that is to bring the school to catch it up with the other things that have been happening around here. So we have the opportunity, we know we're gonna have a new superintendent coming in. We have the opportunity to see if maybe we can rewrite things a little bit, sort of reset. And I'm really excited if I can have the opportunity to be a part of that. I feel like I have given every time something's been asked of me in this community, and I feel like this is one more example where I can lean in. Anybody who knows me knows that when things get hard, I don't back away, I lean in. And I think that while doing this might make me crazy and might be a lot of hard work, it's worth it, and the results are certainly worth it. And I think that everyone, I think, has an idea of something that would make things better. Some people have really big ideas of what would be better. Some people have smaller ideas of what would be better. And I would very much like to be part of a team that's saying, okay, let's do that. And what can I do to help you? And tell me your ideas, because I want to make it happen for you. And I would appreciate it if you could come out and vote on May 16th, if you can get your friends to come out and vote on May 16th, if you can get your family to come out and vote on May 16th, because the community needs to tell us, what do you want? And then let us answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. That concludes our Meet the Candidate forum for this evening. I do want to remind everybody, we are voting May 16th, not only for our budget and for 4 candidates to be seeking seats on the board, but we also have many propositions that are before us. And I also want to remind you, tonight, this live stream broadcast will be available through Buck TV and our fabulous Matt Bach, who recorded it all. It will be available on YouTube. So please tell your family, friends, neighbors, everybody to give it a watch. Thank you, everyone.
Grab goodies on your way out and make a friend.